We're driving a 2024 Chevrolet Blazer EV. It is a mid-size two-row electric SUV.
Here's how much it costs.
Coming up, the Blazer EV does not include Apple CarPlay. What was it like living with this thing for a week? We'll talk about it, but first, interior.
There are layers upon layers of style. Interesting shapes, interesting textures. There's so much color. And look at these vents.
What's this? What's this? The vents, I think they're so proud of the design. That's why they gave you 3 over here.
Even the rear passengers get fancy vents.
The surround here, this could be shiny black plastic, which we really have grown to dislike, but it's not.
They reserved it specially for these high touch zones.
Fingerprints and dust, it just doesn't wear well. But over the other spots that are kind of carbon fiber inspired, they look nice.
There is so much storage as well. Room for a big bottle in the door.
Quality cup holders up front here that don't impede access to the climate controls.
There are really deep bins up front and here.
It's like a little nook here too where you can set your phone up front if you want with adjacent power ports. There's also a wireless phone charger here that is optional. Moving to the seats, I find them to be pressure point free for the most part, but I wish there was more upper lateral support. If you live in a neighborhood like ours where everything curves, you're always doing this, and it'd be nice to stay somewhere in the center. Moving on to an unambiguous positive, rear seat space. All dimensions are massive. You've got a 2-position recline function.
Would you be willing to sit in that center space?
I really would, and I think it's a really unique center space too because the seat is recessed. Our kiddo can put her feet on the ground without issue. It's the rare seat that both she and I occupy comfortably.
There's also room for a bottle in those rear doors and 4 SAS pockets throughout the cabin.
Kiddo, how do you find climbing in and out of the Blazer EV?
The door opens wide and the kiddo climbs in easily.
Similarly impressive is cargo space, 25.5 cubic feet, 60/40 split fold seats, an underfloor area with a little nook just for a charging paraphernalia, and then another deeper nook. From a cargo perspective, this thing's a winner. Chevrolet also offers an available hands-free power lift gate.
Whenever I tried to use it, I couldn't get it to open. But whenever I was just casually walking by, it would open. Clearly, it was designed by cats.
If I had one wish for the cargo area, it would be the inclusion of a spare tire. What about getting the booster seat installed?
The latch points are very easy to access. There are plastic covers that lift out of the way, and I think there would be plenty of room for a rear-facing car seat.
From a safety perspective, neither the NHTSA nor IIHS have rated the Blazer EV just yet, but it does include a full suite of active driver assist, including their teen driver feature, where you can program a key to limit certain functions if you have a young driver. I'm pointing at her like she drives yet. She does not drive yet, at least not that we know of.
What are you talking about?
That sounds like an innocent voice if I ever heard one.
I believe her. Oh, and then we have 8 airbags. Family, what do we think? Is the Blazer EV family friendly?
Family friendly.
Family friendly.
Yeah, family friendly. Rear window test. All the way down. Boop. Armrest test. Driving in a comfortable 8 and 4, I can reach the inboard and outboard armrest. Inboard is softer than outboard. There's a pretty firm plastic bit underneath that top level there. 80% inboard, 55% outboard. Hey, would you like to see more videos like this where we review cars as a family, plus the occasional helicopter adventure? If you would, you are welcome to subscribe. Style! When I look at the Blazer EV, it looks sleek, sculpted, and modern.
The proportions are really interesting. It's extremely long and low. It almost looks like somebody sat on it.
The wheelbase is so long that it's got this kind of squat stance. It gives you a sense that this thing is going to stay attached to the road. There's an inherent confidence with this kind of shape. The version we're driving is the RS trim. It's got some visual enhancements, some black trim on the outside, the little light treatment, the action happening up there, that comes with the RS trim. We also have 21-inch wheels.
I also wonder what it might look like if you removed the black plastic pieces near the wheel. I think it might give it an overall cleaner look.
Well, if you're looking for an overall cleaner look with the same package, consider the Honda Prologue, which is the same vehicle platform, but with a more simple visual style. Perhaps the most pleasant surprise of the Blazer EV style, actual reach-through door handles that you don't have to wait to present themselves.
I really appreciate that. I'm impatient and I can never figure out how to make anything work.
Sweet, merciful function. We like the door handles. And if you value functionality as much as I do, you might appreciate Flying Eyes sunglasses. They feature patented resilimide construction, making them flexible and durable, yet extremely lightweight. All those attributes make them exceedingly comfortable under a headset or a helmet. To learn more about Flying Eyes, click the link in the description below. Overall, we like the look of the Chevy Blazer EV, but what do you think? Good? Bad? Somewhere in between? Tell us in the comment section. In motion! It is a comfortable and controlled ride. That long wheelbase really minimizes seesaw tendencies over choppy pavement. I really like driving this thing around. I also find the interior to be reasonably quiet, especially once I figured out how to turn off that fake engine noise. When you want to adjust your drive mode, you have to go into the screen and do a few little taps here. Let's put it in sport mode. Let's just turn that back off. I know there was a bunch of controversy when Chevy started putting the light controls into the screen. We haven't found it to be a problem in their other vehicles like the Chevy Colorado. If you want to see what we thought about that, you can click up here. There's also the button here to turn off the one-pedal drive mode. Well, I did mention one-pedal drive mode. Let's see how it comes to a stop. The slightest little movement at the very end, but that's pretty silky. Unlike some vehicles where there's various levels of regenerative braking, this is one pedal, not one pedal, hand-activated regen. We got a little paddle over here on the left side of the steering wheel. Pull, regen. I'm just gonna keep holding regen and see what happens. It actually will bring us to a complete stop. Interesting. Going to the opposite end of the spectrum, let's talk power. Floored. Whee! Did you notice how Sweetie didn't make a weird yelping noise? Exactly, something like that.
It is the rare electric vehicle that doesn't elicit a yelp.
What we have is ample power for most drivers' needs, but it's not the kind of power that's going to dazzle people who are EV skeptics. The steering is a slow ratio. It's an electric SUV. How sporty does it need to feel? It doesn't need to feel that sporty, but what it does mean is that when you're doing parking lot maneuvers, it takes more turns to get that amount of steering that you need. But from a quartering perspective, very predictable handling. The Blazer EV turns just fine. Two last thoughts. Super Cruise, which is the hands-free driver assist feature that Chevrolet has, is supposed to be available on the Blazer, but it's not in the configurator and it's not in our vehicle, so we didn't get to test it. And then I noticed fairly extensive windshield reflections from the dash, depending on the sun angle. I hope you like the dash because you're going to see a lot of it. That's what I think about driving the Blazer EV, but what does Sweetie think? Evie's at the wheel. Up here, you're gonna make a U-turn. I had mentioned earlier there is a slow steering ratio. Let's see what that looks like in action. Mayhem, absolute mayhem. It seemed like it went okay. Was it okay?
That was fine. I wouldn't have picked up on that. You're the expert.
Yes, I'm able to determine things that do not matter. So steering feels okay at slow speed. And then what about visibility? Any issues seeing out?
The belt line over my shoulder, I do wonder how it would be if there was a Miata back there. Otherwise, visibility is good all around.
Pull out, get yourself comfortable, and then floor it from a stop. Whee!
I think that's as much speed as I want. Confident pulling out ahead of traffic, but it's not an overwhelming amount of speed.
So we're in the sweet spot. We've got that all-wheel drive getting all the power to the ground. Although I noticed one moment as you were pulling into our driveway, the front tire was spinning and it didn't seem like the rear was able to kind of like account for that. It was an odd moment.
One last thought. I found the one-pedal drive mode very awkward to use. At slow speed, like pulling out of a driveway or trying to maneuver into a parking spot, I found it very difficult to do smoothly. I'm very glad there's a control right here to turn it off.
If we were in the market for an electric SUV, are there any game killers that would keep you from driving a Chevrolet Blazer EV?
Not with the way it drives, but I refuse to live without Apple CarPlay.
We'll talk about that in a second, but first, I'm getting back in the driver's seat. Moving on to remarks. We've got a standard 17.7-inch infotainment display and then an 11-inch digital gauge cluster.
Very user-friendly, easy to find my way to what I wanted. There are also shortcuts up here, which I found super handy. One criticism is if you have a short passenger, they have to lean forward to reach some of those controls.
Our tester has the optional 360-degree camera system, which offers good visibility around the vehicle, though I wish the 360 view was a little bit larger. And then over here, we've got the digital gauge cluster, and it's very easy to pull up different menu displays. Plenty of information, great. Getting back to what we teased in the beginning of the video, the Blazer EV does not include Apple CarPlay, nor does it include Android Auto. Why would they choose to do that? In an EV, route planning is a lot more critical. So you kind of need the navigation system to know what the state of charge is. It's just a lot easier to manage that with a native nav system. Also, over-the-air updates, as they update the vehicle, synchronizing those updates with phone updates can be really challenging. If you're an Android user, just log into your Google account and then pretty much all of the same functionality is available to you. If you're an iPhone user, which if you don't know is like half of all Americans, things get much more complicated. Let me give you an example. My calendar had a reminder to go by REI to pick up some stuff I had ordered, and the address was in that calendar reminder. Normally using CarPlay, it'd be like, hey, you need to go to this place, boop, and then it just guides me. This, I had to manually type in the address, which is just immediately more complicated. And then you don't have access to the podcast app, which is native to my iPhone. You can still stream via Bluetooth, but you don't have access to, let's say, the quick 30-second ahead or 15-second back thing if you want to rehear something or skip some commercials, whatever. Also, we've got a subscription to Apple Music. Using the Bluetooth interface for searching on the phone is just bad. Messaging is another thing. So I can use Siri with the voice activation button here to send a text, but if I get a text back from my sweetie, the system will never notify me that the text has come back. That means if you're driving a Blazer EV with an iPhone, you're much more tempted to look at your iPhone than you are just to use the interface here. General Motors is committed to not having phone projection in their vehicles. Tesla and Rivian have done the exact same thing. So there are companies that are making that choice. But my digital world is on my iPhone, and I can't fathom buying a vehicle that does not incorporate my digital world. And now's your opportunity to tell us we're wrong in the comments. Moving onward to what's under that hood. Our buddy Brian suggested we talk about some basic maintenance. Here's how you get under the hood of a Blazer EV. Just 2 quick, simple pulls, though I did once catch my foot on that little pull, and happily I noticed that the hood popped open. Once you get under there, it looks like a Ken doll. Very smooth, very plastic. Underneath all that plastic, clearly there's a frunk. No, there is no frunk. Here's where you fill up the washer fluid, and then look, there's a little fireman spot. So if this thing is for some reason on fire, that's where fire folks can go to disconnect the battery. We should also mention that shortly after the Blazer EV launched, there were some software issues, like this main screen here would just like go blank, glitch out, and there were a couple of vehicles that when charging would just straight up brick. So they stopped selling them, did a bunch of investigation, solved the problem. Have we had any problems while driving the Blazer EV?
Nope.
Not a one. And I guess in a happy glow around that stop sale thing, when they brought the vehicle back, the prices had dropped thousands of dollars. And also by changing their battery supplier, it now became eligible for a $7,500 federal tax credit. Sometimes things have awkward beginnings and then they work out okay. See our channel for an example. All right, let's talk engine choices. Here are the power and range numbers for the all-wheel drive trims. They both feature an 85 kilowatt-hour battery. Interestingly, you'll find more horsepower from the rear-wheel drive trim and also more range. That's because it has a larger battery pack. It can also charge more quickly at a 190 kilowatt rate. Chevy hasn't published a 10 to 80% charge speed when you use a DC fast charger, but based on some real-world users, 40 to 45 minutes time span is a reasonable estimate.
Sweetie, will you share our trim recommendation?
I certainly will. Our trim recommendation is which Blazer EV trim will give you the essential features you would regret not getting, but at the lowest possible price. The base LT all-wheel drive trim includes essentials like single zone climate control, smart key access, and those big old screens, but the RS trim adds an automatic power liftgate that sometimes works, heated and ventilated power front seats, a heated steering wheel, dual zone climate control, and 21-inch wheels for a reasonable $4,400 premium. If we were buying a Blazer EV, we'd get that RS all-wheel drive. If you're ready to buy a Blazer EV of your very own, click the Kelley Blue Book pricing link in the description below to learn what your current vehicle is worth for trade-in and how much you should spend on a Blazer EV. As for electric SUV competitors, there's the Tesla Model Y, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Honda Prologue, which is built on the same platform as the Blazer EV, and the Kia EV6. Did we miss any remarks? If so, tell us in the comment section. And now it is our daughter's time to shine. Child, tell us, what is your favorite feature of the Chevrolet Blazer EV?
The rack and color on the inside, the color of the seats, and the stitching.
Chevrolet calls that adrenaline red. It is a no-cost option for the RS trim. There's also a black version in case you don't want to make such a bold statement. Family, I think we've done a good job reviewing the Blazer EV. May I have a 5?
Yeah.
And a 5? And you can get your high five. Bam!